Hey y'all, welcome back. Jason here, EKKO Nesters. If you've been following along with us, you know this is Dirty Dolly, and I got someone really special to introduce to you here. As you've been following along, you know we've been hooking Dirty Dolly up with those suspension upgrades, doing them in stages. Well, I happen to have the brains behind it, the mastermind behind everything that's going on. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Brian Lau, owner, the head of Shadowmarq, so to speak.
I guess, yeah. Thank you for that intro. I don't know how to respond to that, but let's get down to the nitty gritty. Yeah, so we outfitted Dirty Dolly with a full King and DEAVER suspension package, and then obviously we can talk about the wheels as well and the tires that we've put on here. But really quick, we just did a Sprinter overland trip through Nevada. I think we did about 300 miles.
Oh,
right?
we did, through some crazy cool terrain too.
Yeah, all across Nevada, through valleys and mountains and all kinds of really cool stuff.
Yep.
And we've got tons of B-roll and film to show that, and put the proof in the pudding, as people would say, right?
No, and I think that's really one of the key things is as we were going through this, Michelle and I get out on our own adventures, but we didn't get an opportunity till just now to really push Dirty Dolly to the limits.
That's right, yeah.
That's where I was so grateful to be, well, Shell and I, to be invited, because when you see some of the footages you were sharing and what the suspension is capable of, it's a game changer for everybody.
Yeah.
So should we kind of start in the front and talk about where we started, where we went, and a little bit of why King is so important and why they're the king of kings in the shocks?
King is king of off-road, basically, and really is the gold standard, or the blue standard, as we would look at this here.
Right.
But their legacy, you know, since the 80s is in racing, off-road, and KOH, and Baja, and all of that stuff. And a lot of that technology and that quality and that USA-made brand is built right here in, well, in Garden Grove. We're in Nevada now, but in the USA. And so these struts and these shocks, they have different tiers of how they build shocks, and this is the Performance Series, which is their highest end quality stuff. We've got billet machine bottoms on these struts. There's a true coilover right here.
Oh, yeah.
So this coilover has a reservoir with short fins to cool the oil, and it's got a compression adjuster right here, so you've got adjustability. And what really sets it apart is it is a true coilover strut, which means that it has the adjustability in the front. So if your back is high, you know, for whatever, whichever suspension that you may have had before, you can adjust it so that you can get that tire clearance, that really nice stance. And that's what these shocks are gonna do. On top of that, because they are really high quality shocks, they're gonna last the lifetime. You know, you can rebuild, retune, you can do all of that with King shocks. The maintenance is really easy. It's just basically looking at the shims, and you know, if you have to revalve it, you can revalve it. In fact, any off-road shop that is familiar with King, you know, which would be any legitimate
off-road shop
anywhere, could do maintenance on these. And
I think the key thing is it's not a throwaway shock.
It is not, yeah, for sure. It's gonna last, and like you said, the key thing is that other brands are throwaway shocks, which means you've got to buy the whole thing all over again. Not to mention that these are gonna withstand all of the beating that you're gonna do, the washboard roads, maybe a few sends, you know. And but yeah, if you want a quality shock that's gonna last that whole, you know, all that duration,
you want the vehicle.
This is what you want to do. You want to buy once, cry once, right? That's
buy
the saying, right?
Well, I think one thing you just said is on the washboard roads. I mean, we hit some insane washboard roads along the journey here. And just so you guys can get a perspective, Dirty Dolly here, she's built on a Sprinter 3500 chassis. She's a little bit longer. She carries 50 gallons of water. She carries a lot of recovery gear. She is a big gal. So what this shock has done and the way that it managed, and we're going to get to the rear and talk about some other things, was pretty impressive. Shell did quite a bit of driving through here, and it was really weird. We're used to all the rattles and all the things that felt like it was going to come apart. In one of the videos, we pop open all the covers in the fridge right after we were bombing down a pretty serious road. Everything was still in place. It's pretty wild. So a little bit more, you notice we got these auxiliaries here. And those came second in, which I'm really glad we had them on this trip, because I think we got to really push them.
We really wanted you to feel that. It's not a necessity, it's an option, but we really like to say that it's the icing on the cake. On road, you're gonna get a lot more stability, because this auxiliary shock is connected to the lower control arm, and so you're gonna get that stability, you know, that, what would you say, we would eliminate that rocking, boating kind of feel up front.
Well, that's one of the first things Michelle noticed when she drove, and I did too. I felt like a lot of the body roll and a little bit of the sway was eliminated. And what was weird for me about that is coming from a little bit of a suspension background with sway bars. That's where my mind went, is moment arms controlling, and immediately we picked up right on that, especially in some of the bigger curves and the driving. So I'm going to let you kind of continue, and I just get a little bit excited.
No, that's actually a great point, because on the Sprinter you can't update the or you can't modify the sway bar in the front. So by adding this auxiliary shock, it's a 2.0, also with reservoir and compression. So you have adjustability there as well, and the way you want it to feel. But on road, it's going to give you a really firm. You know, feeling, you know, planted on the road. You'll be able to take those turns, whether it's, you know, turning left or right at a stoplight, or taking a freeway on-ramp really fast. And I say fast, I mean, I'll take freeway on-ramps at like 60 miles an hour, you know, curving on-ramps.
You know, interesting, just stepping back for a moment when we're talking about the front, I think this is important. If we had one with us, which I shot some video when I was over at CA Tune with it, is what is the shock that surprisingly comes OEM with it? What's the brand? I'm not knocking the brand, but it just threw me off to see it, the Monroe.
I think it is.
It is a Monroe. Like I saw the name and it threw me off, because I'm thinking Mercedes, BMW. It's usually a Bilstein OEM or a Bogue Sash. So it really threw me off here. So immediately when we first started in our stages, that's one of the things that we like to do, is we like to go in stages, because our audience, if you will, with these, I mean, these are big EKKOs here. If you go all full tilt boogie at once, then you don't have a reference point. And I think as we've continued to graduate, so has our explorations going to graduate big time. So again, key thing there, I didn't mean to take over.
No, that's fine. And you're exactly right. I mean, this is, you know, you're doing it in kind of like an R&D perspective. You want to show your audience like that, you know what it feels like to upgrade to different stages. And then maybe that saves somebody else the time from having to do that, you know, if they have the preference, you know, to just go all in, you know, and listen to what you have to say.
And what's nice, you can add this after the fact.
Definitely.
Let's say you start here, and you start with where we're going to go in the rear in just a few moments. And you can come back to this. I mean, you just get your vehicle realigned. I mean, which nothing wrong with getting realignment. They're not crazy expensive. So again, I really wanted y'all to see this. When you see some of the video, we're going to drop in. Shell's going to do that. I've got some footage where I brought the camera in here. You're going to see what's really going down here. And then, of course, any questions, hit us up. But I'd love to move to the rears. One of the conversations I'd love to have with Brian is there's so many options out there when you start talking rear shocks and rear leaf springs. And I'm going to let him take over. But I want to tell y'all, this is the part you want to pay close attention to, because when he tells you what we're running on our rear shocks, there's other options, but I don't think they're the right option for the Sprinter EKKO. I think as you share what we're sharing here in the background, it's gonna make some sense here in a moment. So I'm gonna let you do it, man.
Yeah, well, just to pull back a little bit, we did a lot of R&D with King. You know, we run these Sprinter Overland trips about 6 times a year. So we have a lot of feedback that we give back to King to make the shock the best that it can be, right? And so the 3500 chassis is a really special chassis. In fact, I personally believe that the 35 chassis should be what all Sprinter builds should be made out of. You know, like it has the ability. Well, number one, it's built stronger, right? Better bolts, more reinforced frame. You know, it was just designed that way, right?
And it's proven out here.
It's proven for sure. And the 2500s are great too, but a 3500 is special because, you know, number one, what are we looking at here? A super single, right? And so that is very unique to a 3500. You know, converting a dually, you know, from 4 wheels down to 2 wheels gives us, you know, not only larger tires, more sidewall for airing down, less wheels to think about, less tires for flats and rocks.
Well, give us confidence on the terrain. I mean, to step in real quick, we got the Super Single Reika right here. And we are down, what did we hit, about 55 in the rears when we first started out, and 45 right in the front. And this is just our gauge for what we were doing. But switching that Super Single, I was never worried about catching a boulder or rock between my dualies, nothing. We were just kicking butt with y'all. So sorry, again, I'm stepping in because Shell and I are out there just running the heck out of this thing. But keep going, babe.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, just really quick, we've got the Super Single, and that gives us this nice stance, this tire, this wheel combination. But also in the rear, you know, we can upgrade the shocks to a 3.0. So that's a big distinction between the 2500s, is that we put a big 3.0, which is the largest available in the market.
And that's pretty exclusive to you, if I'm not mistaken, right,
Yeah,
Brian?
yeah.
I mean, Shadowmarq, that's your go-to. And if you don't mind, I said this in the beginning, I really want to separate the conversation to the 2.5 and the 3.0
Right.
on a big girl like this.
Yeah, we've done the 2.5s. In fact, that's what we started with, you know, when we were doing the R&D with King. And after one Sprinter overland trip, you know, we came back to King and said, hey, you know, this should really be a 3.0. These are big vans. This was even before the EKKOs were out, you know, because we've been doing this for a while. So when you're talking about a big vehicle like this with a box and it's kind of tall, you know, some people would say top heavy, you know, you're gonna want the stability, you know, and the 3.0s are like the size of your forearm, right?
Yeah, I mean, wait till Shell pans in here. You probably get a good glimpse right here, Shell.
So you see a giant 3.0 body in there, but what you don't see tucked underneath, which maybe you can get a B-roll shot later, is an equally sized reservoir that is also has the adjuster compression and the short fin cooling fins.
What would be the importance of that bigger reservoir and this bigger shaft and what's going on there?
Yeah, you know, you got more oil in there. The oil stays cooler, which means that everything's just going to work better, you know, for speaking in simplistic terms.
No,
you know, and from a 2.5 to a 3.0, even though it sounds like, oh, it's just, you know, half an inch, is a huge dramatic performance improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially here. I mean, if y'all, the audience that we have, again, we're carrying 50 gallons of fresh water. We got these huge trunks here, got a ton of gear. People are loading these up. And you need to be able to manage, and that management comes from other things we're going to talk about in the suspension as also, but that rebound and compression, when you kind of have some equality on that, where, you know, you're as good on the rebound as you are on the joust, so to speak. And that's really what I've been experiencing.
Well, this is a heavy van. What is it, 11,000 pounds?
We've weighed in pretty heavy. We won't tell DOT anything about that.
Yeah. So you're going to want a shock that's going to be able to handle that.
Absolutely.
You know? It's going to be able to handle that bouncing, that compression, that rebound, all of it, you know, when we're going off-road, even small, you know, fire roads that have washboards or, you know, rough, you know, rock gardens.
Yeah, there was plenty of roads we ran over the weekend that were 50 plus miles of crazy washboard road. I mean, these shocks had been taking a beat, and I was just waiting, and it's like, nothing's happened. It's still the same ride. Floating is a good word. Like, literally, we kind of forgot. We had to look down at the speedo. Shell's like, oh my gosh, you know how fast we're, because it was like, it was a dream. It was like something we hadn't experienced before.
And that's what you want from a really quality shock, is for the shock to do all the work, move up and down, and not transfer it up into your chassis. You know, like maybe you had before, you know, whether it's stock suspension or whatever other brand.
We've had other things. And, I'd say nothing compares right now.
Nothing does. Once you go King, I don't know. I don't think you can go back, you know?
So if you don't mind, I'd love to segue into the DEAVER conversation. And one of the conversations I've been having with some of the folks on our Facebook group, but also on our YouTube channel and on the back end where they message us through our website, is, hey, tell me about springs. Why'd you go DEAVER versus some other things? And we won't necessarily talk about other brands, but let's talk a little bit about the type of leaf springs that are out there and what made, well, what I would say brought you into play with DEAVER to really bring this as a home run.
Yeah, so really quick, you know, Shadowmarq is a distributor of high performance parts, right? But we're a little bit different because we seek the best of the best in the industry, in this case off-road, right? And so obviously we've talked about the Kings, and King is king in the industry. You know, they're the standard.
Races.
But when we look at leaf springs, DEAVER leaf springs are it, you know, and everybody in the off-road world knows who DEAVER leaf springs are, and they've been around for 3 generations of leaf spring building. So they are the pros, right? And that's who we want to work with. So we brought our sprinters over to DEAVER, and we told them we were collaborating with King, and so, you know, they have a great relationship as well. And we told them exactly what we wanted to do, and Jeff and Scott over there, they were great, and we left a couple vehicles there. We 3500, a 2500, you know, 170s, you know, 144s. So
they had the whole platform to play with.
We gave them everything they needed, and so we created different leaf packs. And what's great about DEAVER is not only their knowledge, you know, that long family history, but the quality of the springs too, right? Because a lot of maybe the other springs that we see are not to par, right? They may be like inferior steel, right? But DEAVER uses a 5160 spring steel, which has the characteristic of retaining its memory.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
it's in that memory. Okay,
Yeah, so
excellent.
it's going to move, and that will segue me into how the spring is built, right?
Mm-hmm.
So DEAVER springs do not use blocks. We don't want any blocks, because we want to keep that spring close to the axle. The higher it goes, then that's something called axle wrap that could possibly happen. You're basically seeing shifting, between the
And that could be
spring
bad.
and yeah, you don't want
Yeah.
that. You want it to be contacted as close to the axle as possible. So no blocks, and also we want to make sure that the spring retains its arch, right?
Right.
And so if there's a spring that is flat or going into negative arch, it's already
You can
oversprung.
just see where that DEAVER
So
is sitting.
what will happen in some cases is that people that have aftermarket leaf springs that are, running flat, sagging, or whatever it is, sometimes that band-aid that they resort to is just throwing blocks under it.
Yeah.
You're just lifting up a sagging spring, basically.
Well, I think some of the folks will think of this when they were young, and some of us didn't have a lot of money. We had our rigs. We're trying to make them look cool. We're leveling them out. We'd use anything from a shim to a block to get it up, and we'd feel like, and there's a time and a place maybe for that.
Yeah.
But I'd say when you're talking about this rig and what they're capable of and what you can do with them, I just don't personally feel that's the answer. I feel like the spring, as you say, should be developed. Is that, as you're segueing in here, I hear that a lot of folks ask me the term progressive.
Right.
Is DEAVER a progressive spring?
DEAVER is a progressive spring, and that meaning is really, think of it as like paper, from your printer, stacks of paper, lots of thin layers that move together to get, as one, they're solid, right?
Right.
But then, you can still flex paper, right?
Yeah.
And so those springs will move, and that's a progressive spring.
Okay.
When we look at a stock spring, we're looking at two really thick springs, which is why you're getting a lot of jarring, a lot of instability, because these two thick springs are trying to find an equilibrium, and it just keeps rocking and rocking, right? So with a progressive spring,
dance I can't do.
the progressive spring's gonna move, but it's gonna find its balance really
Right.
quick. You might, obviously through physics move, but it will stabilize really quick.
Yeah. And I think that we have, if I counted earlier, I should do it now. I mean, there's somebody asked me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
10 full stacks right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this spring is our 3500 heavy spring, which is rated from a gross vehicle weight of 10.5 to 11.5 pounds, right?
Then
which
she's
is
a
kind
home
of
run for
where
Dirty
you
Dolly.
guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's say you were to add e-bikes or more boxes or whatever it may be into yours, and for whatever reason, it's starting to come a little bit low. It's not going to negative arch or anything like that, but we want more weight. Well, what we've done with DEAVER is we've developed an XL spring, an extra spring,
Okay.
and which means that you don't have to buy a new spring. We will disassemble this spring and put in another primary, or I would call it like a secondary leaf in there, and that would give you an additional 500 to 1,000 pounds of
Oh, wow.
load.
Okay. I was unaware of that. So that's
Yeah.
actually pretty cool. Now you got me
Yeah.
wanting to do something again.
Well, you don't need to do it.
I know, but
yeah.
like, maybe I didn't need
Yeah.
to throw another 1,000 down.
It's sitting really nice right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. And to your point, you're talking, this is an expensive rig. This is an investment that, you spend a lot of time in, right?
Oh, yeah.
Driving and
Yeah.
camping and making, the inside is nice, right? But I think let's not overlook what gets you there, right?
Right. Yep.
You want to get there comfortably. You want reliable suspension,
Yep.
that's not going to break.
And you have all these refinements, just like you said, inside, and you get there comfortably, but then you're able to get some places that typically maybe you wouldn't have gone before. Not dangerous or overdoing something, but just like the confidence. I think that's one of the things that Michelle and I have really picked up in this. And we're familiar with EKKOs. We had the Transit before, and we've done all of our stuff and pushed boundaries.
Yeah.
But really the confidence, especially in Michelle, is, again, just out there, the things we did, it's like, she was so stable. We literally forgot we were in a vehicle of this size at times. It's like, we were driving a big vehicle, but it doesn't feel like it.
Right. And I mean, you bought an adventure vehicle, right? And
Yep.
so not only does it give you the confidence to go out there, but also the joy, right?
Yeah.
And imagine if you went out there in inferior suspension and everything was rattling and it just was just a really bad experience. You would probably not come out here anymore, right?
Yeah.
But you have a very smooth suspension, a ride, something that makes you want to go out more, so that's what you need to invest in. Suspension is
you're spot on, and that's where Michelle and I go. And again, sometimes it's just a forestry road and you get into a different campground. Maybe you're not going to go do some of the things that we're going to do if you're an EKKO owner, you have one. But again, really, I keep overstating the word confidence. When you are behind the wheel, especially of a vehicle this size and caliper, and I think the testament there that we talked about in the front, the stability, getting rid of some of that body roll and sway. When she dives in the corner, she feels more flat, not pitched in, or
Yeah.
you know, feeling a little bit more almost tipped
Right.
over there. Negative. I was thinking about tipping, right? No,
Yeah.
at any rate, I think that's really what it boils down to. So I think what was important here to share with you all is one, this is Brian Lau, Shadowmarq. He gets out there. There's one of his rigs right there behind y'all, and they test everything, and they do things that really find out what these vehicles are not only capable of, what more can they do. And I was really grateful to be on this trip with you because you and your team, SOT, really helped us learn some things. I mean, we kind of come in and think we know quite a bit, and then it's like, wow, you know, that makes sense. And,
Yeah.
and then to have the suspension, and I think, not to brag here, I think we're the only Sprinter EKKO.
You were the first one on this trip, and since we've been doing this since 2019, I know that the EKKOs recently came out in 23.
Yeah,
but it was a pleasure to have you out here. Really push the limits. Obviously, we equipped you,
Yeah,
you know,
no, I mean,
and
yeah,
to do
absolutely,
that. So,
yeah.
but
No.
you guys came out here and you bombed through, you know, all the trails, and you guys really pushed it. And it was just great having you
Well,
out
and we
here.
were very welcomed, but I think actually we earned some respect with our Sprinter SPREKKO.
Yeah.
I mean, some folks saw this thing coming in going, okay, you know,
Yeah.
they knew it was on a Sprinter
Right.
chassis, and then people were picking on going, oh, the suspension,
yeah.
but are they going to do it?
Well, people, you know, some people already question whether, you know, a van
Yeah.
is off-road capable, and we put
Right.
them out there, let alone an EKKO. And I would probably venture to say you may be the only one that has pinstripes from trees.
Oh, yeah, no,
you
it's
know,
all custom here, y'all.
and all the
That's our
dust.
new wrap.
Yeah, right.
That's environmentally friendly.
Yeah. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
great to have you guys out here.
Appreciate
And
everything.
you know, the suspension, you know, put you out here off road.
Yeah.
But also got you here safely, you
Yep.
know,
Oh,
on
yeah.
road too. You
Yep.
know, there's no helped with the crosswinds
Yep.
and all kinds of stuff.
That
right?
is key too,
Right.
because by the time you get out here, you've traveled either hundreds or thousands of miles
Mm-hmm.
on the paved road, and having that confidence. The other thing I wanted to say is, if you have any questions, obviously contact Shadowmarq right here. If you're looking for folks that can install, they have a whole team of people across, well, probably several states that
Yeah.
they work with, they can refer you to. One, if you have any questions directly on what our experience is, you can always do what you do, hit us up, call us, you know, DM us, whatever means of communication. But I'm grateful for you, man.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the opportunity
for
with
sure. Thanks, Jason.
SOT.
Yeah, and Michelle,
Man, it's
thank you.
been, yeah, we got to get Shell in there for a moment with
Yeah.
Brian. No. You want to step in. There we go. Shell, step in. There we go.
Shell,
She's
real
behind
quick,
the
if I could convince you, you
Mhm.
know, we got to stop this 11,000-pound rig with a big brake kit.
Yes.
Yes.
I was thinking that when I was going down the hill because I was getting concerned about the whole getting hot. And
Yeah, the
everything,
brake
so-
fade and all
Yep,
of that stuff.
yep.
It's a heavy vehicle, and we want to stop it.
And
You
I'm
invested a
always-
lot of
yeah,
money, and you guys want to be safe.
yeah.
Again, a 3500 gets 6
Yes.
pistons in the front and 6 pistons
Back
in the
there
rear.
next.
And it's
Yeah.
interesting, we were talking about that on the way here with some of the hills, different adventures. Then when we got here and she, just like she said, riding the hill, she geared down and everything. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if we weren't having to overthink RPMs?
Right.
You're gonna get them too hot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I learned
literally.
a lot.
So,
That's
yeah,
great.
because while she was switching, you know, toggling
Sure.
D1, D2, D3,
Yeah.
and she's going, she's also watching the RPMs, and it's very distracting. So
Sure.
it's not to have to do that and have the confidence of a big brake
yeah,
kit. So,
huge brakes.
Yeah. oh,
yeah.
look what we got to do now. Dirty Dolly's getting all excited again.
That's why I
Well,
talked to Michelle.
Yeah, I can
Let's
see.
do it, Michelle.
You two are dangerous. All right,
Thank you.
y'all. Cheers.
All right.
Hope
See
you
you
enjoyed
later.
this video. You know where to go. Shadowmarq Industries.
Thank
there we
you.
go.